access to, wow. Remember that you have access to career centers. There are a number: Walton College Career Services, College of Engineering Career Center, and the University of Arkansas Career Development Center. The University Career Development Center is conveniently located in the Arkansas Union on the 6th level. All of those centers have highly trained and certified career advisors to provide you support in building and discovering your strengths, job and graduate school search, cover, resume assistance, career assessments, career fairs, career events, and so much more. You can check out more and learn more about us on our website at career.uark.edu. Please note, we will be giving away door prizes at the end of the Future of Work panel discussion and at the end of each breakout session. So remember, you have to be present to win. So hang in there with us until the end of the panel discussion and at the end of each breakout session if your time will allow. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to a man who really needs no introduction, as he's our fierce leader, Chancellor Joe Steinmetz. He'll provide a few opening remarks and will introduce our keynote speaker. Please join me in welcoming Chancellor Steinmetz.
Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate your invitation to be part of this early on today. And good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone is, first of all, healthy and safe. Angela, you and your team in Career Service have done a tremendous job with this symposium under what are very, very trying times that we find ourselves in. So thank you for that. And I also want to make sure I welcome all our students. I think it's great you're planning ahead. I think it's great you're thinking about what happens next. And I don't know how many times I've heard over the years from students that graduation comes faster than I thought it would. And it's always good to have an iron or two in the fire as you make the transition out of the university. So let me thank as well our keynote speaker, John Ferner, and I'll introduce more formally John in a minute, but also all our esteemed panelists. These are people with a great deal of knowledge and information they'll pass on to you today. And obviously with the ongoing COVID pandemic, we've had to get creative with this year's symposium, but nevertheless, we've got some great participants and some excellent discussion topics for the breakout session. I was particularly interested in one which I think captures it all, and that's the title, Being Broke Ain't No Joke. That is true. So that's what we're trying to avoid here. It probably goes without saying that the job market is a little different than it's been in recent years, but I want you to know, you really need to think in the long term and take the long view, not the short view here, because you have a long career ahead of you doing what is probably going to be many different things over the course of your working lifetime. So I hope we prepared you well, and I hope that this symposium helps you out. It's going to be a great resource for our students as they begin to navigate this very challenging market. We've always defined student success at the university as being about more than just earning your degree. It also means of making a successful transition from the university into a working life and into a new career. So I think this symposium is a small but important way to get students ready for that transition. So my thanks to all. So now I'm very pleased to welcome our keynote speaker. John Ferner serves as President and Chief Executive Officer of Walmart US, where he's responsible for the strategic direction and performance of more than 4,700 stores and more than 1 million associates. What a big job. Prior to this, John served as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Sam's Club, and during his time as CEO, Sam's Club had 11 consecutive quarters of positive sales while increasing memberships, which is an accomplishment in any business. John started with Walmart as an hourly associate in 1993 at store 100 in Bentonville. He's held important roles throughout the company, working his way up from assistant store manager all the way to his present position. What a great accomplishment. He serves on the board of directors for the Congressional Medal of Honor Foundation, as well as the National Retail Federation. So he's active outside his business as well. Finally, I have to brag on John. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Marketing and Management from, where you should have guessed, at the University of Arkansas. So I'm not surprised of his success at all. So please help me welcome John Furner. John?
Hey, thank you, Chancellor. I really appreciate the introduction. And as you said, I mean, how could I have gone wrong after that great career at the University of Arkansas? It's good to be an alumni, and I get to talk about the school quite a bit and have over the years for many occasions and on a couple continents. But look, first, I'd like to say thanks for taking the time and thanks for taking time to listen and inviting me to be a part of this. I've decided today I was going to wear my Walmart Plus t-shirt because today was the day we launched Walmart Plus nationally, and our team has been really excited about this launch. It's been something we've been working on for quite some time. So a lot of positive feelings around the company, a lot of people joining today, and we're excited about that. You know, I just want to follow up on a couple things that you've heard already, and the first thing I'd say, it is a very dynamic marketplace out there today. And I can say that whether you're talking about the political environment we're operating in, the economic environment we're operating in, the health environment we're operating in, or the social environment, there's just a lot of change going on. And we're all having to think through what it is we do today and what we do next. And I would just say that the team at Walmart, there are over 1.5 million people in the United States who have risen to the occasion. They've learned a lot from this experience. They've made changes and just couldn't have done this without them. And the impact they've made on their communities, their states, their country has been nothing but spectacular as this year has progressed. So my hat's off to the entire Walmart team. And they've been able to make changes, big changes, as I said, not just things with the way we operate or the way we fill or orders or the way that we've aligned our structures to serve customers in omni fashion, but big launches like the launch today. So it's just been impressive to see a group of people who have been able to manage their daily lives, manage their health, take care of their families, manage a business, and make big, meaningful changes all at the same time. So I just want to start to say how proud I am to be part of the team I'm a part of. Now, as the dean said, I did go to the University of Arkansas. I graduated in 1996, so lots changed since then, but I'm sure some things are probably the same. And regardless of where you are in your college career, you're probably starting to think about, you know, what it is that you're going to do next, whether it's next year or the next couple of years, and you've got a lot to think through. And as the chancellor said, I would also encourage you, think about the long term. The steps that you take in the short term are certainly part of a journey, and they are steps along a trail, but it's a long trail ahead of you. So you don't have to make all the decisions for your entire life right now, but you do have to start thinking about, you know, what the next couple of years are going to look like. And, you know, from our point of view, there is a lot of change in the market, but there are opportunities all over the market. There are many businesses, and in several industries, of course, but many businesses who are faring well. And what they have in common, from our view, are the businesses that have learned to stay ahead of what it is the customer is doing in their daily life, the way that they're shopping, the way they're evolving, and the companies that are able to dynamically get ahead of where the customer is going, we think are going to be the winners. You know, the workplace has definitely changed. When I was at the University of Arkansas, as many of you have been, I'm sure, for a couple of years, we were physically in class, and this year we've all learned to take classes or teach from home. We've learned to work from home. We've learned to do a hybrid of the two. And we were just talking about it before we started this summer. At Walmart, we had 400 corporate interns, and we held all of their internships virtually, and we're able to do that via Zoom and remote, and we made it work. So I think, you know, what this is starting to teach us is there will be opportunities that come out of this because the workforce is changing and it's adapting to what's going on in the world. So my career back at the University of Arkansas, I entered school thinking that I would get a degree, and I really had a passion for music. So I thought my best path would be to go into music. I was a guitar player. I had a lot of fun doing that. And over a couple of years, I just decided that probably wasn't going to work for a number of reasons. But as in the introduction, I decided to go back into marketing, into business, and pursued a degree in marketing management. And it was just a fantastic combination of a couple of fields, because it helps you so much to understand the business world, the way consumers think, the way you communicate to groups broadly. And then finally, the human resource aspect of leadership was such a valuable asset to me as I got out of school and went to work. As I think about what it is that would help you get from where you are today and where you want to look forward to, or ultimately the job you want to get into. Now, I think about it, I try to break it down into a couple of things. And some of these are my personal opinions, and other things are the things that we would look for as a business and as an employer, regardless really of what level you're in. And the first is, do have a high appreciation for being empathetic. Many of our leaders today have found themselves in situations where it's harder to get to the symptoms of causes because we're not together, and we've had to learn to work creatively, if I can say that right, creatively across the space to understand what it is we can do for customers and for each other. And for me, empathy means getting to the root cause of situations and understanding the real problems, and not just working through the metrics or the things that symptomatically feel like we're making improvements. But I really look for people that think through the root cause and think about how it is we got to where we are, and what it is it's going to take to move us forward. And a couple of the traits that I think about that would help in leadership is, first, we look for people who are resilient. In 2020, as nothing short of a test to test people's and groups of people's resilience. We look for people who are just inherently interested in serving other people. And anyone who's worked in a leadership team or led a team, that you have to perform, but you have to do it on behalf of the people around you. So we look for people that not only are great performers, but those who just make their teams and their coworkers better because they're present. Now, the third is we look for people who love to learn. I talk to people all the time, and including my own kids and others, that what you do as a student in a university is you learn to be a lifelong student. So certainly you're going to learn some of the skills and the material, but do recognize that much of the material that you'll learn in the next few years or this year, it's going to change as you get in the workforce. And what I'm working on today is quite different than even last year. So we look for people who are wanting to learn. The fourth on my list is we look for people who want to commit. So, we look for people who are committed to a purpose that is greater than themselves, and they can get their head around that they can make the idea that they can make a difference in something big, and they can make a difference in the world. And I would just encourage you, never underestimate the impact that one person can make on another person, a team of people, or even the world. The next is excellence. I always look for people who want to be the best at what they want to do. And now, certainly the way that they perform and the way that they get things done is important. But nevertheless, I'm always looking for the type of people who want to win and want to make sure that a team that they're a part of is something that is always going to be win, and they perform to the highest standards. And then finally, something that's really important to me and everyone here at the team at Walmart is integrity. We want leaders, and we want individuals to join as contributors and then become leaders who we trust the integrity of not only their decisions, but of the way that they perform and really the way they live their lives. And so much of what we do today is public, and it's in the domain where everyone can see it. And the way you react when people are looking has to be just as strong when people are not looking. So I think about some of the things that's happened to us this year. We went into the year at a time of what we would say was fast transformation. We had layered onto that a pandemic. Later in the year, we had to start changing the way we operate stores, including hours and personal property or personal protection equipment, PPE. We've had to think about the way we're going to manage the holiday season. We've had issues we've had to address, like state flags in certain parts of the world or certain parts of the country. And then and then around the Memorial Day timeframe, the murder of George Floyd, certainly had an impact on the way that we had to bring issues to the front of the table and make sure that we're addressing things in a way that really do prove that we're managing with integrity. So each one of these challenges and tests this year, for our team, we've had to do the right thing when people are looking, but more importantly, we've had to do the right thing when people are not looking. And it's a decision at a time, a person at a time, that I think can make the biggest difference. So in a year, like 2020, as you're thinking ahead, certainly the work is changing, the workforce is changing, where you'll find opportunities will be changing. But I'd just encourage you, think about being flexible, work into the things that you love to do, and don't try to make all the decisions at once, because we really don't know what next year may bring. We don't know what next quarter may bring. In fact, the first time here at Walmart in the company's history, we pulled guidance for the third quarter and the fourth quarter because we just have so much uncertainty we're managing on a daily basis, that we decided that we would not only build for the future, but we'll be reactive along the way to do the best we can to ensure that people are safe and that we're managing our business effectively. So, thinking about for you what this means, and one of the questions someone asked is, is explain how I got to where I am from starting in my career as a student at the University of Arkansas to here. And I think what I would say is the principles that I talked to you about: being resilient, serving, learning, committing, being excellent, managed with integrity. All along the way, those helped influence my decisions. And there were multiple times in my career where I was asked to do something that I was excited about, and other times I was excited, but I knew the challenges would be hard. And what I always tried to do was find a way to say yes to the hardest things and run to where the biggest problems are. And I always thought if I could do that, although it would be challenging and it would make things not as easy as they could be, I would learn a lot more from it. I could gain more experience, and later on, I'd be in a position to be able to do more for the team of people that had done so much for me, and that's how it worked out. So just think about, as you look forward, be dynamic, be open to new ideas, say yes to opportunities, and then always, always, always think about how you position yourself to be a lifelong learner. So stay curious. The consumer market will change, the business environment will change, and I'm talking about business because I'm in a retail field, I'm in the business field, but there's so much of the character that you have and what you have to offer. If you can just pair that up effectively with how you stay curious and how you stay ahead of where the world is going, and then you find the great ideas and you find work that inspires you, there's really nothing you can't accomplish. And I think I'm proof that anyone can start from anywhere and go as far as they want to go. So how you define success is so important in this journey. But I just wish you the very best of luck. And I want to say thanks to the whole team for inviting me here today. We're just up the road, so fortunately many people that are probably on the call get to interact with people on my team, and I just want to wish you the very best as you get into this year and then to the next phases of your life. So thanks for having me.
Good evening, everybody. I want to start by thanking John for being here with us tonight and for such a great speech. We're lucky to have alum like John and like Doug that are willing to come back and speak to students and share about their experiences. I wrote down a couple of key words from John's speech: resilience, integrity, be dynamic, and a quote that I really loved: run to where the problems are. I think that's great advice about how you can stand out in spite of the pandemic and really be the one on the team that people look to help. So I'm really pleased to be with you all tonight. My name is Meredith Adkins. I'm Director for the Corporate and Community Outreach at the Sam Walton College of Business here at the U of A. And I'm going to transition us here to the Future of Work segment of our event tonight. So first, you're going to hear from Mervyn Jebaraj, the Director for the Center for Business and Economic Research here at the U of A. Mervyn will share about the economic outlook for employment. And then Mervyn's going to hand it off to Sarah Goforth, the Executive Director for the Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation here at the U of A. Sarah will moderate a discussion about the future of work with three fantastic industry leaders who have joined us here tonight. Over to you, Mervyn.
Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for joining today. I'm going to give a very brief presentation talking about what we see happening in the workplace as it stands today, and what we expect to be happening in the workplace in the near future. So I'll make my presentation available through Meredith after this if you guys want to look at some of the information in greater detail. But you know, one thing that I'd always like to start talking about when we're talking about the future of work is to try to figure out where we are today and all of what's going on around us. And obviously, we've all heard of the unemployment rate being really high. You know, the US unemployment rate, at least as of the end of July, was north of about 10%. In Arkansas, was a little bit lower than that. And, you know, through the metro areas in Arkansas where we are, especially Northwest Arkansas, tended to have some of the lowest unemployment rates. But just looking at a historic perspective for the unemployment rate, you can see that during this pandemic, we've had some of the highest unemployment rates that this region anywhere in our state has really seen in a very, very long time. And even though we called the last recession that happened over here the Great Recession between 2007 and 2009, the job loss during this very you know, short period of time, so far about 6 months, has been far worse than anything we saw during the 2-year time period of the Great Recession. So it certainly presented a lot of challenges throughout the economy, regardless of where you are. Everybody has been affected by this in some respect. But I think what I want to share in the next few slides is how the pandemic, while it has affected everyone, sort of the effects are different depending on where you sit in the economy and what that and how that matters to you as college students, getting an education and then looking out into the workplace over the next year or the next several years. So, you know, the first thing is obviously the high unemployment rates nationally are fairly high, but that doesn't mean that every segment of the economy is you know, facing the same level of unemployment. This chart shows you the change in employment by income quartile. So you can see that the lowest wage workers tend to have lost the most number of jobs and have gained fewer compared to sort of the higher income workers. The high wage categories up here in green, the low wage categories in red, and you can see that they had a much sharper job loss, some improvement, and it's certainly faring worse than middle wage earners and high wage earners in our country as a whole. You know, to get a perspective on who high wage earners and middle wage earners are, you know, I think as a short aside, has been a lot of questions over the past several years about, you know, the value of a college education, given how expensive it is, and the effect of student debt, and if considering all of that, if a college education is still valuable. And I think, you know, when you look at this chart and the previous chart and you see what's going on in this pandemic, or in this chart in particular, you can see what's been going on over a longer period of time during recessions and not during recessions. You can see that, you know, the college education is still an incredible bargain over the course of your lifetime. I think what this chart shows you, the green line is the median earnings, weekly earnings for people with a bachelor's degree or higher. Sort of the blue line is with a high school degree, but no college education. And that difference on a weekly basis is north of $600. So it's $2,400 each month, which is a significant amount of money. And when you think about this over the course of a long period of time, say your entire working career from when you graduate college to at some point when you retire, that amounts to, in today's dollars, well over $1.2 million to each household that has a college degree, sorry, to each person that has a college degree over a person that has just a high school degree. So, you know, when you think about the cost of college, or, you know, going to college in a pandemic, and you're worried about whether remote learning is worth it and all of these things, you look at the bargain over the longer time period of your entire working career, you can see that, you know, no matter what college costs in this day and age, it's still very much an active, it's very much still a bargain compared to what you would make without a college degree, at least at the median. And, you know, speaking specifically to this pandemic, again, you know, folks with a college degree have been somewhat shielded by some of the harsher impacts of this pandemic. And that tends to generally be true across every recession or in any general time period as well. So again, here the green line are folks with a bachelor's degree or higher. And you can see that even in periods where there isn't a recession, which is all of the periods between the gray bars, this was the recession in the early 2000s, this was the recession in 2007 to 2009, and this is where we are today. You can see that, whether we're in a recession or not, people in college tend to have lower unemployment rates than people without a college degree. And particularly in this pandemic, you can see the sharp increase in unemployment rates for especially folks without a college degree or less, with a high school degree or less than a high school degree. And you see a much smaller increase in the unemployment rate for folks with college degrees. And, when you break that down and try to figure out why that would be the case, folks with college degrees are far more likely to be able to telework. This, north of 60% of them are able to telework in some capacity or not if you have a bachelor's degree. And again, the kinds of jobs that are more conducive to telework, that is low interpersonal contact on a day-to-day basis with frontline customers would tend, those jobs that have lower contact tend to be jobs that require a bachelor's degree or higher. So, to answer your question about whether college is still the right thing to do in today's world, I think, so far all of the evidence that we have, even during this pandemic, clearly indicates that a college degree is absolutely necessary, for greater long-term job security, pandemic or otherwise. So I want to talk a bit about what the future looks like in terms of what jobs these college degrees generally lead to, and sort of talk about stuff that isn't directly related to the pandemic. I think, while this seems to be everything that everybody wants to talk about right now, hopefully at some point next year, we will be past this and we will be talking about more regular things in our economy. And so one of those things is trying to figure out where job openings will be over the next 2 years or longer time period. And I would like to start by saying that you shouldn't make all of your decisions based on exactly where jobs are or, what the pay levels are. I think that's just information that you should take into account into what your career path you want to take, but you shouldn't necessarily, choose a career because it has the most number of job openings or the highest salary. I think you want to do something that makes you happy and you're more likely to be successful in your career than if you were simply making a choice based on the number of jobs available or the salaries available. So this is, of jobs that generally require a bachelor's degree or higher. These are over the next couple of years, job openings expected in Arkansas. And you can see, these are standard occupation codes that are set out, and you can find definitions for those at the website that I have here. But you can see, management occupations and general business occupations tend to have some of the highest expected amount of jobs in the near future. And then over here, you see healthcare tends to have the next highest category of jobs, and then education is the following category. And then you see some type of engineering, computer science degrees, and legal and other types of job openings as well. So that gives you generally, which if you were to sort, this chart kind of allows you to sort jobs by which college, roughly, where college degrees are broken down here at the University of Arkansas, even though that was not the intention of how they set up the occupation codes. This sort of gives you, a little more specifics, and it's going to be a little bit hard to read, but this gives you a little more specifics about what kinds of jobs within these larger or broader standard occupation codes. And then it gives you, the overall number of openings over a 2-year period, sort of the median or mean wage in that particular category. Again, you can see, healthcare and business tends to be at the top, which is pretty much what we've seen here. If you add up the healthcare categories and the business categories, tend to have the most number of job openings. And if you're looking at sort of the list of jobs here that are individually broken out, only listed about a few of them, not all of them, then you can see again that those tend to be the categories where you see the highest number of job openings statewide. This again shows you some of those same job categories by the level of education that you would need to reach. So you have jobs that are by bachelor's degree, master's degree, or doctoral degree. I want to pull every one of these tables down into these presentations, but I left the where to find this information so you can actually find. It has great information about what type of degree you will need, what skills you need to have developed while getting that degree, and whether you need some internship or residency or job experience before you're able to advance in a career there. And again, this table here shows you the projections by education level. Again, you can see the bachelor's degree tends to have, and a higher than bachelor's degree tends to have some of the strongest amount of percentage change in annual job growth, at least over the next 2 years. And finally, I'll leave you with this website where you can actually go into far greater detail, to look at each individual category of employment while you're thinking about your career, and it'll give you, job projections. The website is projectioncentral.com, and it's actually a state partnership between all the states in the country that try to do projections in each state. So you can find information by each individual type of occupation in each state, and I'll tell you how many jobs are projected to be there over a short period of time between 2019 and 2021, or a long period of time between 2019, over a 10-year time period between, say, 2019 and 2028. So that's something that you can explore at greater detail, and clicking on each of those jobs will give you sort of, again, a greater detail on what kind of qualifications you need. And with that, I will stop and introduce Sarah Goforth to introduce our wonderful panel.
Thank you, Mervyn. And thank you, Meredith. This has been great so far. So I think what we can say for sure so far is that the future of work may be uncertain, but guaranteed it won't be boring. It'll be dynamic and full of exchange of ideas. And I'm really excited that our panelists today bring deep perspective into 3 very different but interconnected sectors: healthcare, entrepreneurship, and technology. We have Ashley Hilburn, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for Arkansas Children's Hospital; Jeanette Blaza Collins, who's the Director of Entrepreneurial Development for the Northwest Arkansas Council; and Dwayne Cotton, the Microsoft Alliance GTM leader at Ernst & Young. And Dwayne, I hope you'll tell us what GTM is for those of us who don't know. So I'll kick off. So Mervyn alluded to this. In some ways, we're in a little bit of a good news, bad news economy right now. There's serious unemployment and other issues, but there's also growth. So I'd like to begin by asking what's driving growth in each of your sectors and how that affects what jobs and skills are most in demand. And Ashley, maybe we could start with you, since healthcare is something that's on everybody's mind right now.
Yep,
and you're
sure.
right on the front lines.
I'm happy to start. Thanks for having me. My name is Ashley Hilburn. I serve as the Chief Strategy Officer for Arkansas Children's and the Senior Vice President for Strategic Marketing. So Arkansas Children's is a little bit unique in that we're the only children's hospital in the state. That's not necessarily true in other parts of the country. And so, to answer the question, what's sort of the growth strategy for us, I think on a national scale, there's sort of 2 things happening in pediatric healthcare. One is that the advancement of medicine really gives a lot of kids a long-term chance that 30, 40, 50 years ago, children wouldn't have had in some very complex and genetic anomalies. So what's growing is how that keeps advancing. You think about things like precision medicine, you think about things in the adult congenital world, right? Kids are living longer and living healthier lives in a lot of areas. The other thing that's growing is the work of pediatric healthcare to really focus on the whole health of a child. So there are multiple studies that would tell you that we live in a country where zip code often influences health more than DNA. And so what that really drives at is the social and economic circumstances that really have an impact on health, particularly on children, and particularly in the first 5 years of life. So if you look nationally, that's true. And pediatric healthcare organizations are really trying to find their place and their voice in their role, quite frankly, in really solving for those systemic whole health issues. And so that's driving, when you think about what's driving employment, both of those things really drive new jobs in our world.
Thank you. Dwayne, would you like to weigh in on that question?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a sort of a different story for me being on the technology side. So Dwayne Cotton, as Sarah mentioned, and go to market, Sarah, does mean is for the GTM acronym, which basically means sales and business development. So in essence, I own our partnering sales strategy with Microsoft, which is one of our largest alliance partners for EY. And I've been at EY for 3 years, spent 17 years at Microsoft before that in a number of sales and business development roles. And I would say that background has prepared me for these, unpredictable, unforeseen times that we currently are in right now. Working for a Big Four consulting firm, I spent a lot of my time on planes in the past, right? I mean, literally every week I was on a plane visiting a client along with our friends from Microsoft. And my focus has been on the advanced manufacturing space. So when you think of advanced manufacturing, think of the big discrete manufacturers like a 3M. You can also think of more of the process-oriented manufacturers, more along the lines of a Dow Chemical, and also too being very closely connected with manufacturing. Same problems that those clients have also are shared by clients in the consumer packaged goods arena. So imagine how those companies were hit here over the past several months with the outbreak of COVID-19, where in some cases, some companies were brought to their knees. In other cases, some companies found out how resilient or not resilient their supply chains were. So quite honestly, we've spent a lot of time over the past several months helping companies to plan their, what I would call, comeback from COVID-19. And a lot of clients are being pretty smart about this in respect to looking at how they can use this as a growth opportunity. So we're spending a lot of time doing innovation workshops with our clients, helping them to sort of understand what the art of the possible is in respect to having better visibility into their supply chains, helping to protect them and put guardrails in place in case another COVID type event comes up. And so we've seen in some industries where these clients are having great turnaround strategies associated with this and helping them. In the meantime, I've also seen other industries like the cruise lines that have been brought down to their knees, where nothing is happening right now. But I think right now, our clients are really in tune around the term digital transformation. And this was something that we were having conversations with them about even before COVID. But now COVID has made that a very real item for them because it's their avenue to be able to come back and quickly serve the clients that they serve in their markets.
Mm-hmm. A lot of change. And, Jeanette, you are boots on the ground supporting entrepreneurs every day. Does all of that change drive entrepreneurship, or is it keeping people away from wanting to take the risk of starting their own venture or grow it?
I think the pandemic has affected everyone differently, and everyone is processing it differently and also has a very personalized way of coping and also of building and reacting. So kind of hearkening back to what John had said, they're looking for people who run towards the problem. And during this pandemic, it was this great reveal of so many inequities, of so many gaps, so many challenges. So in entrepreneurship, you have a lot of businesses who are having to make the most difficult decisions of their life, especially our Main Street businesses and hospitality. But then you also see how those same businesses have pulled together and created these grassroots ways to take care of our neighbors. And then on the startup side, a lot of our entrepreneurs here, I can think of 3 startups here: Oculogics, Movista. Of course, university alum Omar Kasem, who has Con Quesos, and he just launched Cider. These entrepreneurs saw opportunities and they were quick on their feet, and they started figuring out, how do I describe the problem, understand the pain? And in Oculogics's case, they had built this enterprise level with a long sales cycle product, and they started thinking, how can we take this intellectual property? How can I take my developer team and create 2 new products? And so it's been interesting to see how entrepreneurs have responded. We've seen more resiliency with our tech-based companies who are used to remote work, but I think some of the growth that the pandemic has created is, changing attitudes towards remote work and how to deliver value. Companies starting to think about having distributed teams and collaborating across other channels. I think also with social social change imperatives, people are becoming so indignant that you're seeing entrepreneurs move over to how they can create social impact. So as much as it's heartbreaking in many ways, it's also heartening in many ways as well.
I love that. So you've all touched on the need for curiosity and resilience as sort of assets in a career. I'd love to hear your thoughts on skills. Students ask all the time, like, what skills should I be getting? And Dwayne, you spent 17 years in Microsoft before you went to Ernst & Young, and that was a period of great technological disruption. How do you recommend students think about the hard skills they need to develop so that they can stay competitive in a workforce that's driven by new technologies that change every day?
Well, the main thing I would say is being an active listener. That's probably the biggest skill that you can undertake in respect to getting credibility with anyone that you're trying to sell anything to. So that could be anything from an industrial widget to technology that Microsoft has. And I was fortunate enough to be at Microsoft through a number of innovative cycles, going back to the very beginning of the mobile app ecosystem, where Microsoft sort of lost that war to Apple, being a part of the advent of the cloud and helping to create a new channel ecosystem and model to help them monetize that associated opportunity. I would also point to another thing that John mentioned in his opening keynote in respect to you always have to be an active learner, in your career. I graduated from the U of A back in the late 80s, as a business major. The term digital transformation wasn't heard of, right? I mean, barely people were using computers back in those days, right? So throughout my career, and I've worked for technology companies like IBM in addition to Microsoft, you always have to be on the cutting edge of learning the newest trends. And in companies that you work for, big or small, are the best ways to continue that learning process. And so that was sort of the thing that served me well throughout my career at Microsoft, where I had several roles, such as an account executive, then morphing that into being more of a director of partnerships and alliances. And that's sort of what gave me my pedigree before I came over to EY. So that was sort of the biggest thing, but I would say having the ability to listen, because if you're meeting with a client or somebody you're trying to sell something to, the last thing you want to do is be the loudest person in the room doing the most talking. That's probably not going to help you at all. It's not going to help you sell anything, actually.
I'm gonna write that down. Hang on. Okay, these are priceless words of wisdom. We should have the chat box open. So I would like to invite students who are participating to share your questions. I could keep asking all day long, and I will. But if you have them, put them in the chat, if you will, and I'll keep an eye out. And while we're waiting for those ideas to percolate, so Jeanette, you spoke about how some of the social unrest and racial inequities that we're experiencing in society are driving a passion and a demand for the way we do business to change. How do you recommend students think about pairing the things that they deeply care about changing in society and in the business world with finding job opportunities that pay the bills? And that's questions for any of you. It's a hard one.
Well, and I hear this a lot, and it's a lot of times when a student is getting ready to graduate and starting to get what we call mentor whiplash. You know, it happens with companies. You put out what you want to put into the world, and you start getting feedback from all these different perspectives, and it's easy to get lost in all the differing opinions, especially if you've had a family member who has a legacy job they want you to do. You've also got your own passions, and then you know, you may have been pulled by Rogelio, who teaches in the social innovation department at the university, to really start thinking about what he sees as entrepreneurship. Because I think in his world, there wouldn't even be a differentiation between entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. You have the ability to be a creative, to create value, to create change. And you make your decision as a business leader whether you're going to stand for something that's right for your community and for the planet and for other people or not. And so I think that it's an inextricable kind of dilemma, but I think it's a worthy one. And I think a big part of that is to kind of reach outside of yourself and start doing project-based work. That may be looking at a startup company that has a social mission and asking to do work, whether it's paid or not. It could be creating some sort of challenging yourself for your own hackathon. Instead of waiting for a startup weekend, challenge yourself and kind of gamify the process of just starting anything, any project, and using a problem statement and then deciding, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to see if this crazy idea would even work. What's the most minimal experiment that I can do? And in the startup world, we always say just get out of the building. And of course, that looks very different now, but I think people have almost become more accessible because we are kind of captive on Zoom all day and on our social media channels. And so really taking advantage of those digital tools to be able to reach out and actively look for mentors, actively look for feedback, and be inquisitive, as Dwayne said, about being curious and asking open-ended questions, because oftentimes we are prescriptive with our solutions instead of really being passionate about that problem. And our Northwest Arkansas Product Management Guild talks about user research and talks about, you know, a good product manager or anyone who's trying to create something new becomes an excellent problem describer first before they become a problem solver.
Excellent. Okay, we have some questions coming in. Thomas wants to know, what's the right way to find job opportunities during a pandemic? Networking is not what it once was.
Well, actually, I would say it is. Don't be afraid to reach out to people in areas that you want to know more about, an area that you may want to work in. I mean, I would, you know, I may be inviting myself to trouble, but I'm on LinkedIn. You guys want to be on LinkedIn? I'll be happy to be part of your network, because I'm very proud of my University of Arkansas network, and it continues to get bigger the later I get in my career. So number one, don't be afraid to do that. And because here's the thing with a network, for everything you think you can learn from another person in respect to getting those valuable insights into how to crack the code, to have a career and do what they're doing or something similar, you know, you probably have something to offer in that conversation as well. I mean, it's never a one-way street. I mean, and regardless of how little you think your experience is, it's still an experience that somebody can gain insights from. So never be afraid to do that. You would be amazed at people at various stages of their career who are always willing to have that conversation with college students or people who are very new in their career, maybe their first job in and looking to make that next step. So that's my way of saying, you know, think about your network. You know, there are different ways to do it. You know, LinkedIn is a valuable tool. I'm embarrassed to say how many connections that I have on LinkedIn, but I can say that they're pretty active connections. I don't just connect with people just to say I have another connection. I want them to be active.
Mm-hmm.
I would add to that. I think help people know you. So be authentic and help people know you. And you can do that a lot of different ways. You know, particularly in my marketing career, by giving people exposure to some of your work products, it's a very easy way for people to have a more three-dimensional sense of who you are and what you can do and what skills you bring to the table. But I think for, no matter where you are, there are ways for you to sort of authentically shine. So don't be so caught in there's a certain way you have a resume and a certain way that you have to follow the rules, and figure out really authentic ways for people to know you. And the second thing I would say, don't expect people to know that you're looking for something without actually saying it out loud to people that you trust and admire and respect. I think there's a way to do that where it doesn't back people into a corner, but it certainly puts you on the table as someone who is actively looking for an opportunity. So sometimes I think people just sort of expect you to know that, if there's an opening, you'd be interested, but there's really no way to know that until you actually say that out loud to somebody.
There are so many good questions in the chat. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to try to group 3 of them together that all seem to relate to fear of entering the workplace at the wrong time, or not being the right kind of person. So our company is still looking for diversity is one thing. Is this a terrible time to be a freshly graduated international student looking for a job in the US? And how do I avoid age discrimination if I'm an older student finishing up my degree and looking for work at a time when everybody wants young, fresh, new technology-driven ideas? Those are 3 different questions, but kind of in the same vein. I'm really interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll be happy to quickly take that diversity question. It is a very important topic for companies out there right now. I mean, one of my passions of the course of my career is working, within, diversity inclusion ranks, and particularly trying to help folks who feel like they're underrepresented, help to plot a path in their career field of choice. So I was pretty active with D&I initiatives at Microsoft and continue to be at EY. And one of the things that came out recently, with the advent of some of the, social unrest incidents that happened here earlier this spring, was that you may have saw that a lot of the, I would say Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies came out pretty strongly in respect to D&I and having those conversations. And really just, as John mentioned earlier, just trying to, make sure that there was no ambiguity on where they stood on the topic. And so Microsoft has done that pretty boldly. I'm actually working with Microsoft along with EY and building out some D&I programs to help support entrepreneurs, ironically. Those are some of the things that we're working on. So I would say that it's very important for every company out there. People are making it a more critical pillar because they understand that it's vital to their existence and their future to continue to grow, regardless of what market that they're in. They need to be more cognizant of those types of issues.
Yeah, and I would say there's a real advantage to recent graduates in certain sectors. I would say in the healthcare sector, that's an area that we are focused on building our diversity in terms of our workforce, in terms of skill, and in terms of generation. So we really think about things in sort of generational terms. But when you think about the patients and families we serve a majority of younger families, right? And so really having a workforce that can really see the lens of that and meet the needs of that is really important to us. So it's not always a disadvantage. I know I know when I got out of school, I thought, oh, I'm at a disadvantage compared to people who've been in the workforce for 10, 15, 20 years. I actually think there's an entirely different way of looking at that really is playing out at Arkansas Children's and in children's hospitals across the country, where it's actually a really advantageous space to be if you have the right skills and the right values that align with what we're trying to do. So I would say don't be too pessimistic about that.
I love it. We have a couple of people wanting to know about grad school. Is it necessary? Should I get a master's? Thumbs up.
I don't know that it's absolutely necessary, but I've never regretted going to grad school.
Well, I don't have my MBA or anything. So I think it's one of those things that it depends on what your goals are. If you have in your career plan that you want to be an executive, CFO, CEO of your own company, there's a couple of different ways to do that. Number one, you can go an entrepreneur route, or number two, if you want to do it through a traditional, organization, there's time to do that. You can do executive MBA programs if you feel you want to become a leader or executive, or if you just want a great job in a great field, making a lot of money. I think you can do that with the right moves where you don't necessarily need it. But definitely it's very valuable if you have it. So kind of a double answer there.
Well, and I've seen a lot of people wait to go to grad school after they go to the job market. And then I've seen people go to grad school, work a little bit and then start their own business. There's no set path. And I think that now more than ever, there are very flexible programs because there is a war for talent in the right spaces. So employers, entrepreneurial ecosystems, economic development groups are really working hard to think about all the different needs of all these different segments of people that we want to recruit, and creating flexible programs so that those opportunities are there when you need them. And I think that is the big learning through all this, is just to embrace the fact that you will be a continuous learner as your career evolves.
So Meredith's telling me one more question, and I love this analogy. There's a war for talent. That's good to know. If there's a war for talent, then if you had to say the number one thing that a student should be armed with to come out ahead, number one thing from each of you?
I think it's the art of narrative, being able to tell a story. I think whether it's about what your desires are, what your vision is, what your project is, what your business is, what kind of change you can make at the company, you have to have that ability to tell that story.
I'm glad you went first, because I was wrestling between compelling communication and storytelling, and being able to constructively question. And so it's probably broader than what we have time for, but I think in the workplace, there is such a need for leaders and team members who can collaboratively create. And in order to do that, you have to be able to really get elbow to elbow in human design. And I think at the core of that, especially as you progress in your career and you become the boss that everybody wants to make sure things are managed around, being able to constructively question and really pull out candid dialogue is so important.
Yeah, I would add on to that, Ashley. That's a great response, and I would just, mine was going to be collaboration and teamwork, because I think that allows you to have the platform to be able to ask those better questions. You don't necessarily have to be the smartest person on the team, but being inquisitive, being able to be more precision-like in your questions, whether it's with a team member, with a customer, those are things that are going to stand out in a job interview. Not necessarily that you're coming to the job interview preparing to answer a lot of questions from an prospective employer, but also, when I do interviews, I'm always looking at the questions that I get, and just sort of how it gives me a good idea of how that person is thinking about their role, how they visualize themselves at my company. I think being able to do that effectively and provide that vision will help me make a decision pretty quickly in respect to whether I should hire you or not hire you.
Perfect. Well, thank you all. It is great to be in a room with you, even though it's a Zoom room. And I think Meredith, it's off to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Dwayne, Ashley, Jeanette. This was really fantastic. I wish we had more time, because I know that there were a lot of questions and you all had such great answers, but we're going to get everybody on to the breakout rooms. I would say if you could pull one thing out from there, don't be afraid to ask questions, use your network, get on LinkedIn and ask all those questions that you've been asking, to alum on LinkedIn who are going to be happy to help you as well. So we have a couple of door prizes, and I'm going to just quickly read out and order the prizes. We've got a Walton College gift bundle with a t-shirt and thermos donated by Walton Career Services, a $20 Amazon gift card donated by the University Career Development Center, and a $20 Walmart gift card donated by Walmart. So the three winners, in order of the way I listed the prizes, are Astrid Gonzalez, Camilla Schrader, and Solomon Isu. if the three of you could just send me your emails through the chat, we will send you instructions on how to pick up your prizes. And with that, over to Kaylee to tell you how to get to breakout rooms.
Thank you, Meredith. Yes, thank you all for attending the Keynote and Future of Work panel. So now it's time to attend the breakout sessions. There are 4 total sessions, and you'll see in the chat where I've listed the breakouts 1 and 2, which will start at 6:05, and then breakouts 3 and 4, which will start at 6:30. You'll see a link to view all the sessions and descriptions at that first link, and then the rest of them are listed right underneath that. I would suggest to copy and paste that first link into your browser and scroll to the bottom to locate the links to join if you're going to attend multiple sessions. And like Meredith said, don't forget there are more door prizes that'll be given away at each session. And I want to thank you all and hope to see you at the breakout sessions.